Hi everyone, I'm Garrett Weinzierl for the Arrowhead Center at NMSU, and I'm back with more strategies for working remotely. Today, we'll be hearing from a new guest that recently transitioned from an office to a work-from-home environment, or should I say, back to a work-from-home environment. You'll find out very soon. I'm joined today by my friend and co-host from my video game podcast, The Angry Chicken, Jocelyn Kearney. Thanks for joining me today, Joss.
Oh, thanks for having me, Garrett.
We're usually talking about super nerdy things. I mean, this is a little bit nerdy. It depends on how deep down the work from home rabbit hole you want to go.
And you know that we're going to go pretty deep down that rabbit hole because we talk very often. So this should be fun. I'm looking forward to diving into this.
We have literally made a small business out of talking for 90 minutes to 2 hours to each other once per week. At least once.
Yeah, we could totally do it more than
that. yeah, absolutely. So you very recently started an office job, and then very shortly after, because of the pandemic, had to switch to a work from home environment. And now I know you are no stranger to working from home, but I would imagine it was quite the transition for the majority of your coworkers. What was that like?
It absolutely was. I think a lot of people really struggled with the change. And with the pandemic, it's been slightly different than I think what working from home is going to look like once we're actually allowed back in the office. Because working from home during the pandemic, you have the added complication of potentially having your kids there too. Normally, when you're working from home, the idea is you would be working from home alone. Whereas right now, a lot of you are wearing many different hats, including educator, child caregiver, as well as whatever your actual occupation happens to be that you're trying to do from home. So I think the transition was very rough there, especially with a lot of the uncertainty and where a lot of people didn't have a home office space already ready to go. It made the transition that much harder.
Was your office already utilizing tools like voice over IP? I mean, Skype, Zoom, whatever, any of the popular ones? Or was it kind of like from the ground up, all right, folks, we need to learn how to do what we do for a living using these tools?
It was definitely the latter. We had nothing set up. It was very much an open, collaborative workspace, which is not my favorite thing anyways.
I can hear you gulping, Richard.
No, you can't.
It's the kind of desks everywhere, no walls type of a situation. So there weren't a lot of remote meetings happening. Everyone was confined to one building. So if you needed to have a meeting, you booked a meeting room sort of thing. Obviously, we were set up with phone lines, but everything else was very much done on site. So it was a huge, very quick transition. We went from essentially assessing whether or not we could work from home to working from home in about 3 to 4 days. So it was a scramble, to say the least. And I think that a lot of people weren't necessarily prepared for that, but we did transition quite quickly, and we're not actually using Zoom now. We're actually using Microsoft Teams, which the one thing that I have noticed about tech companies in the last couple of months is that they are very quickly seeing what their competitors are doing, and they're pivoting, because like when we first started using Microsoft Teams, you could only see a couple of video cameras of whoever was talking, but everyone else was hidden. And they've now gone the Zoom route where everybody's video is there all the time, which spoiled my how to not be on video strategy, which was mute your mic, join very late, and then you'll just never be on video.
Well, then I'm going to assume you just took a page out of the live streaming a podcast playbook and just made sure, the top half is ready for business and maybe you're still wearing pajama pants.
Yes, the camera positioning is definitely key. And that's one thing, like once we jump into all of those kind of meetings, then it became very obvious who had made use of voice applications before and who had not, because I had to basically give like a class, for lack of a better term, on proper Skype etiquette, because between people not muting mics when yelling at children, spouses, or pets,
Loud noises!
or, like maybe showing more than they intended to on camera, whether it's, you and your person, or a lot of people don't think about what's actually behind them in their background. So, like I just did laundry, my underwear's everywhere, and people don't think of that, but we can all see it.
I am fighting all of the urges to mention the underwear sponsor of our podcast. Yes,
Right?
folks, if you're watching this and you are unaware, our podcast is actually sponsored by an underwear company.
It is, yeah.
You're killing me, Joss. So was it like very quickly you arrived at Microsoft Teams? Because actually, it's one of the ones I have zero experience with. I've never messed with Microsoft Teams. How are you liking it?
Well, Teams is something we as an organization were already using. So it was kind of already built into our calendars and file sharing and everything else. So because it already had the like voice meeting abilities, then it was kind of just a natural progression of our use of the software. It was easier to just use even though it wasn't as feature rich as some of the other offerings, it was much, much easier for our organization to just transition into using that program that we were already familiar with and using that extra functionality instead of trying to find like an actual best fit, but another program that everyone would have to install and learn how to use.
Now, when you said you had to give a class, that was one of the things I was curious about, like, is if you lended any advice from experience, because I mean you've been podcasting basically as long as I have, if not longer. I don't actually remember which one of us started podcasting first. It doesn't matter. This isn't a contest.
It's been a while. I made the transition to working from home and podcasting in 2015. And then, as you mentioned, Garrett, in January of this year, I made the decision to go back to a more traditional office job, in addition to keeping my podcasting going as well. And so when I went back to a more traditional career, I was really excited about being able to go to an office, having a little bit more of a rigid, structured schedule. And within about 7 weeks, we were all told to work from home. Again, something we thought was going to last 2, maybe 3 weeks. And now, as everyone knows, it's now June and we are all still working from home. But yeah, a lot of people didn't realize the kind of basic steps of creating a home office and how to create a work environment in what is traditionally your play environment. Being able to section off a portion of your home if that's a possibility for you. And I think the really big thing that a lot of people weren't aware that they should be doing or that they should be thinking about was actually ergonomics. Like, it's something that you hear a lot about at like health and safety meetings when you're actually working in an office. But as soon as you get home, there's a certain level of relaxation and comfort that you don't necessarily have in an office environment. So it's very, very easy to forget about taking care of your body, of your joints, of your back and your neck and your eyes. All of these things can be strained at home just as easily as at the office. So I think one of the first things that we did is I had everybody post a picture of what their office environment looked like. And some people were on things like folding chairs or had, like just their laptop on top of a very, very low surface. And, you forget about needing your monitors to be up at your eye line and, having proper back support. And like all of these things are very, very important. And one of the things that I recommended, because I showed a picture of my setup, which was much more elaborate than quite a lot of my coworkers. And a lot of them were really surprised at everything that I had on my desk. I have my monitors on a much higher stand. I also have a standing desk converter that I use, which allows me to transition very easily between sitting and standing. It's around $200 Canadian on Amazon. So for you guys down in the States, it's, probably like $20.
Listen, the exchange rate's decent. I don't think it's that good.
But yeah, so I think that there are very small things that an organization can do in the grand scheme of, profits and everything else to create home office spaces that are just as safe and just as productive as they are in a more traditional office building.
Joss, I really appreciate your time. You will return for one more. We're going to talk about basically kind of looking towards recovery. But thank you very much for stopping by and kind of sharing your experience about what transitioning from an office to a work from home environment was like for you. I really appreciate it.
No problem. Thanks for having me, Garrett.
And to everyone else watching, thank you so much for doing so. Please leave a comment below. I love answering questions. There's a very good chance I have experienced whatever oddity you have run across. So drop it below and be sure to like and subscribe to make sure you get the next Remotely in a timely fashion. Thanks so much for watching. See you next time. This video was brought to you by the New Mexico Economic Development Department, Office of Science and Technology.